The serene hum of the Galactic Council Station's life support systems was shattered by blaring alarms. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in an eerie red glow, transforming the once peaceful halls into a scene of chaos. Counselor Thax, a tall Etherian with shimmering iridescent skin, burst into the central command center, his flowing robes billowing behind him. "Report!" he demanded, his usually melodious voice sharp with tension. A young Thalarian officer, her feathered crest quivering, responded, "Multiple unidentified vessels, Counselor. They've just appeared out of nowhere." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that sent shockwaves through the assembled aliens. A fleet of angular, dark-hulled ships had materialized near the station. Their design was unlike anything the Council had encountered before, all hard edges and utilitarian efficiency, bristling with what could only be weapons. Counselor Thax's compound eyes widened in disbelief. By the cosmic harmony, how did they bypass our detection grid? Before anyone could respond, a priority communication request flashed on the screen. With a trembling hand, Thax accepted the transmission. The image shifted to reveal a human face, weathered, determined, unmistakably military. "This is Admiral Michel Okoye of the United Earth Federation. We come in peace, but request an immediate audience with the Galactic Council. The fate of this region of space may depend on it." Murmurs of shock rippled through the command center. Humans were nothing more than myths to most of the assembled species, violent creatures from an uncontacted death world. Yet here they were, at the very heart of galactic civilization. Thax struggled to maintain his composure. I am Counselor Thax. We were unaware of any scheduled first contact." Admiral Okoye cut him off, her voice brooking no argument. "This isn't a social call, Counselor. We have information vital to the security of every species represented on your station. Will you hear us out, or shall we leave you to your ignorance?" The Etherian counselor bristled at the brusque tone, but recognized the gravity of the situation. He nodded slowly. "Very well, Admiral. We will convene an emergency session, but I must insist your vessels maintain a safe distance from our station." A ghost of a smile crossed Okoye's face. "Understood. We'll send a small delegation. Expect us within the hour." As the transmission cut out, chaos erupted in the command center. Species that had known centuries of peace now faced an unknown threat, both from these humans and whatever danger they claimed to bring warning of. Amidst the pandemonium, a low, rumbling voice cut through the noise. "I will handle this." All eyes turned to the massive figure that had entered the room unnoticed. General Krazthul of the Krizari stood nearly 3 meters tall, his leathery hide covered in bony plates and scars from countless battles. The Krizari were the only known species to have evolved on a world as harsh as that of the mythical humans. Their strength and resilience had made them the unofficial peacekeepers of the Council. Thax nodded gratefully. "Yes, please, General. Your experience with difficult species will be invaluable." Krazthul's reptilian eyes narrowed. "We shall see if these humans are truly our equals, or if the legends of their homeworld have been exaggerated." The next hour passed in a blur of frantic activity. Security protocols were activated. Non-essential personnel were evacuated to safe zones, and a heavily armed welcoming party was assembled in the main docking bay. General Krazthul stood at its head, flanked by a mix of Krizari warriors and representatives from other Council species. As the appointed time arrived, a sleek shuttle detached from the human fleet and approached the station. The assembled aliens held their breath as the craft maneuvered into the docking bay with precision that spoke of considerable skill. The shuttle's ramp lowered with a hiss of hydraulics, and the first human emerged. Admiral Okoye cut an imposing figure despite her small stature compared to the Krizari. Her dress uniform was adorned with medals and insignia that spoke of a lifetime of military service. Flanking her were 2 men, one older with graying hair and the shrewd eyes of a diplomat, the other younger and built like a warrior, his hand never straying far from the strange device at his hip. Krazthul stepped forward, towering over the human delegation. "I am General Krazthul of the Krizari. You claim to come in peace, yet you arrive unannounced and armed. Explain yourselves." "Hey there, Hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel to grow and reach more people. Now let's find out what comes next. Admiral Okoye met his gaze unflinchingly. "We had no choice, General. The threat we face left us no time for pleasantries. I am Admiral Michelle Okoye. With me are Ambassador Leonard Garcia and Major Raphael Jackson. We represent humanity, and we've come to warn you of a danger that threatens us all." The Krizari general's eyes narrowed. "And what makes you think we need the help of an unproven species?" A humorless smile crossed Okoye's face. "Because we've already fought them, General, and barely survived." The tension in the docking bay was palpable. Council security forces gripped their weapons tightly, while diplomats and scientists whispered among themselves, theories and speculation flying. The human delegation, however, remained calm and composed, their bearing speaking of hard-won experience. General Krazthul studied the humans intently, his tactical mind assessing every detail. Finally, he spoke. "You will be escorted to a secure conference room. There, you will present your evidence to the Council. But know this, any sign of deception or aggression will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." Admiral Okoye nodded. "Understood, General. Lead the way." As the group moved through the station's corridors, curious onlookers gathered at a safe distance. The sight of humans, creatures of legend, walking among them was almost too much to comprehend. Some recoiled in fear, while others leaned forward in fascination. Ambassador Garcia, ever the diplomat, offered small nods and gestures of greeting to those they passed. Major Jackson, on the other hand, remained vigilant, his eyes constantly scanning for potential threats. The procession arrived at a large circular chamber. The walls were lined with ornate seats, each occupied by a representative of a different council species. At the center stood a holographic projection system, currently displaying a rotating image of the Galactic Council's emblem. Councillor Thax took his place at the head of the assembly. "Esteemed colleagues, we find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. These humans claim to bring warning of a grave threat. We will hear them out, but I urge caution and skepticism." Admiral Okoye stepped forward, her posture straight and confident. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I know our arrival has caused alarm, but we come before you today not as conquerors or aggressors, but as potential allies in the face of a common enemy." She nodded to Major Jackson, who activated a small device. The holographic display flickered, and a new image appeared. A nightmarish ship, part organic, part machine, its surface seeming to shift and writhe. Gasps of shock and disgust echoed through the chamber. Okoye continued, her voice grim. "This is a Zarkavian vessel. They are a species of conquerors and slavers, moving through the galaxy like a plague. They attacked one of our colonies, thinking it an easy target. They were wrong." The display shifted again, showing scenes of devastation, burning cities, shattered ships, and fierce battles between humans and the grotesque Zarkavian. "We fought them off, but at great cost," Okoye explained. "In the process, we discovered their plans for this entire sector of space. Your worlds, your people. All of it is marked for conquest. We came here to warn you, and to offer our help in stopping them before it's too late." The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices. Some demanded immediate action, others called for caution, while a few even suggested the humans might be lying to manipulate the council. Through it all, General Krazthul remained silent, his eyes never leaving the human delegation. Finally he spoke, his rumbling voice cutting through the chaos. "I have seen the eyes of warriors who have faced true horror," he said. "These humans speak the truth. The question now is, what do we do about it?" Councillor Thax raised his hands for silence. "Admiral Okoye, your warning is disturbing, to say the least. But surely you understand our hesitation. We know nothing of your species beyond ancient legends. How can we trust that your intentions are truly peaceful?" Ambassador Garcia stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. "Councillor, esteemed members of the Galactic Council, we understand your concerns. Humanity has long dreamed of peaceful contact with other intelligent life. But our first encounter was with the Zarkavian, a nightmare that nearly destroyed us. We come to you now not out of choice, but out of necessity." He gestured to the holographic display, which now showed a map of the sector. "The Hfy are coming, whether you choose to believe us or not. We offer our knowledge, our technology, and our strength to stand beside you. All we ask in return is a chance to prove ourselves as allies and friends." The council chamber fell silent as the weight of the situation settled upon them. Centuries of peace had left them unprepared for such a threat. Yet here stood potential allies, forged in the crucible of combat, offering their aid. Councillor Thax looked from the human delegation to General Krazathul, conflict clear in his alien features. "General, what is your assessment?" Krazathul's eyes narrowed. "The humans are warriors, that much is clear. Their technology is advanced, their tactics unconventional. If what they say is true, we would be fools to reject their offer of alliance." He turned to Admiral Okoye, towering over her. "But know this, human. The Krizari will be watching. Any sign of treachery, and you will learn why we are feared across the galaxy." Okoye met his gaze without flinching. "Understood, General. We expect nothing less. But I hope that in time, you'll come to see us not as potential enemies, but as brothers in arms." The tension in the room was electric as Councillor Thax prepared to render his decision. The fate of not just the Council, but potentially the entire sector, hung in the balance. Before he could speak, alarms blared once again throughout the station. A panicked voice came over the comm system. "Unknown vessels decloaking. They're launching fighters." In an instant, the Council chamber erupted into chaos. Security forces scrambled for defensive positions, while diplomats and civilians fled in terror. Through it all, the human delegation remained calm, almost expectant. Admiral Okoye locked eyes with General Krazathul. "It seems the Hfy found us sooner than we anticipated. Now, General, you have a choice to make. You can either detain us as invaders, or you can let us help you survive what's coming." Krazathul hesitated for a split second, centuries of mistrust warring with the clear and present danger. With a growl of frustration, he made his decision. "To the command center, now. Show us what you can do, humans." As they raced through the station's corridors, the sounds of battle grew louder. Through viewport after viewport, they caught glimpses of sleek, predatory ships engaging the station's meager defenses. The Hfy vessels seemed to shimmer and shift, as if they were part of the very fabric of space itself. They burst into the command center to find it in disarray. Councillor Thax was desperately trying to coordinate a response, but it was clear the peaceful council races were woefully unprepared for this level of aggression. Admiral Okoye strode to the central holographic display, her voice cutting through the panic. "Listen to me. The Hfy aren't here to negotiate. They're here to conquer, to strip your worlds of resources and enslave your people. We've seen it happen before." Thax turned to her, his iridescent skin pale with fear. But why? We've never even heard of these Hfy before today." "Because they're smart," Major Jackson interjected, his eyes never leaving the tactical displays. "They strike from the shadows, taking world after world before anyone realizes the threat. We only found out because they made a mistake. They attacked a human colony thinking it was just another soft target." Ambassador Garcia stepped forward, his voice calm but urgent. "We fought them off, barely. But in doing so, we learned of their plans for this entire sector. We came here not to start a war, but to prevent one from consuming your entire civilization." General Krazathul's eyes narrowed. "Pretty words, but what proof do you have?" Admiral Okoye nodded to Major Jackson, who produced a small data crystal. "Everything we know about their tactics, their technology, their weaknesses. It's all here. But right now, what you need to know is how to survive this attack." As Jackson interfaced the crystal with the Council's systems, holographic displays sprang to life. Detailed schematics of Hfy ships appeared, along with tactical analyses and weapon specifications. "Their ships use a form of biomechanical camouflage," Okoye explained, highlighting specific areas of the enemy vessels. "It makes them nearly invisible to standard sensors, but it has a weakness." "Major?" Jackson nodded, bringing up a new display. A precise electromagnetic pulse modulated to this specific frequency, will disrupt their cloaking technology. It won't destroy them, but it'll make the bastards visible. General Kraz-Thul studied the data intently, his tactical mind already formulating strategies. Impressive. But how do you suggest we deliver such a pulse? Our weapons are designed for peacekeeping, not warfare. A grim smile crossed Admiral Okoye's face. That's where we come in, General. Our ships are equipped with the necessary technology. If you can buy us time to get into position, we can level the playing field. For a long moment, the command center was silent, save for the distant sounds of battle. Then, with a nod that seemed to carry the weight of centuries, General Kraz-Thul made his decision. Counselor Thax, he rumbled, I recommend we accept the humans' assistance. The threat is real, and we are outmatched. Thax looked from the Krizari general to the human delegation, conflict clear in his alien features. Finally, he nodded. Do what you must, General. Admiral Okoye, your people have our gratitude and our trust. Save the thanks for when we've survived this, Okoye replied, already moving towards the communications array. Major Jackson, coordinate with the Krizari Defense Forces. Ambassador Garcia, work with the Council to evacuate non-essential personnel. Let's show these Jarkovian bastards they picked the wrong day to start a war. As the command center erupted into purposeful activity, a new energy filled the air. For the first time since the attack began, there was hope. Humans and aliens working side by side, their differences set aside in the face of a common enemy. The battle for the Galactic Council Station, and perhaps the future of the entire sector, had begun in earnest. As the command center of the Galactic Council Station buzzed with frantic activity, Admiral Michel Okoye's voice cut through the chaos like a plasma torch through hull plating. Major Jackson, status report on our fleet's positioning. Jackson, his fingers dancing across a holographic interface, responded without looking up. Admiral, our ships are moving into formation. ETA for optimal pulse deployment, 3 minutes. General Kraz-Thul, the massive Krizari warrior, loomed over the tactical display. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he studied the movements of both human and Jarkovian vessels. Impressive maneuverability, he grudgingly admitted. But will it be enough? Okoye's lips curled into a grim smile. It'll have to be, General. Now let me show you what humanity brings to this fight. With a nod to Ambassador Garcia, Okoye activated a secure channel to the human fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Okoye. Execute Operation Blindside on my mark. The tension in the command center ratcheted up another notch as everyone held their breath, waiting to see what the humans had planned. Counselor Thax, his iridescent skin pale with stress, leaned in closer to the main view screen. Mark! In that instant, the battlefield outside the station transformed. A dozen human ships, previously hidden by some unknown stealth technology, materialized in key positions around the Jarkovian fleet. Before the enemy could react, a wave of energy pulses rippled across space. The effect was immediate and stunning. The Jarkovian ships, once shimmering and near invisible, suddenly stood out starkly against the backdrop of stars. Their true forms were revealed, nightmarish amalgamations of biological and mechanical components, writhing and pulsating in a way that made several council members recoil in disgust. By the cosmic harmony, Thax whispered, his compound eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. Kraz-Thul's massive fist slammed down on the tactical display, causing it to flicker. Now, while they're exposed, all Krizari vessels, concentrate fire on the lead ships. As the Krizari fleet sprang into action, joining the human assault, Okoye turned to address the stunned council members. What you've just witnessed is the result of Project Eclipse, a collaborative effort between our top scientists and military strategists. We developed this technology specifically to counter the Jarkovian threat. Ambassador Garcia stepped forward, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the frenetic energy around him. Esteemed council members, we understand that our methods may seem aggressive, but please understand, this is the culmination of years of desperate struggle against an enemy that would see all of us enslaved or destroyed. He gestured to the battle raging outside. The Hfy don't distinguish between humans, Krizari, or any other species. To them, we're all potential resources to be exploited. Our only hope lies in standing united. As if to punctuate Garcia's words, a massive explosion lit up the view screen. A Hfy capital ship, its cloaking device disabled by the human pulse technology, succumbed to the combined firepower of human and Krizari vessels. The sight sent a ripple of cautious hope through the assembled aliens. General Krazathul, his eyes never leaving the tactical display, growled in reluctant admiration. Your people fight with the ferocity of cornered Nexu, Admiral. Perhaps the legends of your homeworld weren't exaggerated after all. Okoye allowed herself a small nod of acknowledgement. Earth forged us in fire and blood, General. We learned long ago that survival often means being willing to do whatever it takes. As the battle raged on, Admiral Okoye began sharing more details of humanity's encounters with the Hfy. She recounted the devastating first contact, where an isolated human colony world, Nova Terra, found itself under sudden attack. We lost millions in those first days, Okoye said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. The Hfy struck without warning, without mercy. Our outer defenses, designed to repel pirates and the occasional aggressive alien wildlife, might as well have been made of paper. She described scenes of horror, cities reduced to rubble, civilians rounded up for processing in massive biological assimilation chambers. But then, her tone shifted, taking on a note of fierce pride. But humanity doesn't break easily. The colonists of Nova Terra, cut off from immediate reinforcements, didn't surrender. They fought back with everything they had. Okoye's words painted a vivid picture. Farmers jury-rigging their harvesting equipment into makeshift weapons, miners using their explosives to collapse Hfy supply lines, and local law enforcement coordinating guerrilla strikes against enemy patrols. For 3 weeks, the people of Nova Terra held out against impossible odds. They bought us the time we needed to mount a counter-offensive. When our fleet finally arrived, we found a planet scarred and burning, but not broken. The survivors emerged from the rubble, bloodied but unbowed, ready to take the fight back to the enemy. The council members listened in rapt attention, a mix of horror and admiration on their alien faces. Even General Krazathul seemed impressed by the tenacity described in Okoye's account. Ambassador Garcia took over, his diplomatic training allowing him to frame the human response in terms the council could appreciate. From that day forward, humanity united as never before. We set aside our internal conflicts, pooled our resources, and devoted ourselves to a single purpose: ensuring that what happened on Nova Terra would never happen again, to us, or to any other sentient species. He described the rapid advancements in human technology, shields capable of withstanding Hfy energy weapons, propulsion systems that could match their maneuverability, and of course, the stealth and counter-stealth technologies on display in the current battle. As Garcia spoke, Major Jackson continued coordinating the battle outside. Human and Krizari ships moved in concert, as if they'd trained together for years instead of meeting mere hours ago. The Hfy, their primary advantage of stealth neutralized, found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. Councillor Thax, who had been silent for some time, finally spoke up. This is all overwhelming. You speak of horrors beyond our comprehension, of technologies that push the boundaries of known science. How can we be certain that you won't become a threat yourselves once this crisis has passed? It was a fair question, and one that Okoye had clearly anticipated. She met Thax's gaze steadily. Counselor, humanity has seen the face of true evil. We've stared into the abyss and clawed our way back from the brink of extinction. We have no desire to inflict that kind of suffering on others. She gestured to the battle outside. Right now, we're fighting for our survival, not just humanity's, but yours as well. All we ask is a chance to prove ourselves as allies, to show that we can be a force for good in this galaxy. General Krazathul, who had been dividing his attention between the ongoing battle and the humans' account, suddenly stiffened. His clawed hand reached out, manipulating the tactical display to zoom in on a particular sector of space. Admiral Okoye, he rumbled, your stealth technology, can it detect other cloaked ships besides the Hfy? Okoye frowned, moving to join him at the display. In theory, yes. Why do you ask? The Krizari general's expression was grim. Because I believe we may have more uninvited guests. Look here, and here. He indicated several areas of seemingly empty space. The movement patterns are too regular, too coordinated to be debris or sensor ghosts. Major Jackson quickly recalibrated the human fleet's sensors, focusing on the areas Krazathul had identified. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a veil being lifted, new signatures appeared on the tactical display. Confirmed, Jackson reported, his voice tight. Multiple cloaked vessels detected. Configuration unknown, but definitely not Jarkavian. The revelation sent a fresh wave of tension through the command center. Counselor Thax's voice quavered as he asked, "More enemies? Are we under attack from multiple fronts?" Admiral Okoye's mind raced, analyzing the new information. "Not necessarily, Counselor. These ships haven't engaged in the battle. They're holding position, observing." Her eyes narrowed. "They're gathering intelligence." Ambassador Garcia stepped forward, his diplomatic instincts kicking in. "This could be an opportunity. If there are other advanced species out there watching this conflict, perhaps we can turn them into allies against the Jarkavian threat." General Krazathul snorted derisively. "Or perhaps they're waiting to see who emerges victorious before swooping in to claim the spoils." The debate was cut short by a priority alert from the tactical system. Major Jackson's voice was urgent as he reported, "New Jarkavian signatures detected. Massive energy spike. They're preparing to jump in reinforcements." Admiral Okoye's response was immediate. "All ships, prepare for second wave engagement. Counselor Thax, we need to evacuate all non-essential personnel from this station immediately. If the Jarkavian break through, we can't risk them capturing the heart of your government." As the command center erupted into frantic activity once more, Okoye turned to General Krazathul. "General, I have a proposition. Your warriors are renowned for their strength and skill in close-quarters combat. If we can get a boarding party onto one of the Jarkavian command ships, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation." Krazathul's eyes gleamed with the prospect of battle. "A daring plan, Admiral. But how do you propose we get past their defenses?" Okoye's smile was fierce. "Leave that to us. We've been working on a little surprise for our biomechanical friends. Major Jackson, prep the Trojan Horse protocol." As Jackson rushed to comply, Ambassador Garcia approached Counselor Thax. "Counselor, I know this is all happening very quickly, but we need a decision. Will the Galactic Council stand with humanity against this threat? The fate of all our species may depend on it." Thax looked from Garcia to Okoye to Krazathul, then out at the battle raging beyond the station's shields. In that moment, he seemed to age years, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. "Ambassador Garcia," he said slowly, "in all my years, I never imagined facing a decision like this. We are a peaceful confederation, ill-prepared for the horrors of war. And yet," he straightened, his iridescent skin shimmering with resolve, "and yet, we cannot stand idly by while this menace threatens all we hold dear." The Etherian counselor's voice grew stronger as he continued. "By the authority vested in me by the Galactic Council, I hereby formally accept your offer of alliance. Let it be known that from this day forward, humanity stands with us as full members of our galactic community." A cheer went up from the assembled aliens, quickly stifled as they remembered the gravity of the situation. Ambassador Garcia bowed deeply. "Thank you, Counselor. We will not let you down." As if on cue, the tactical display lit up with new alerts. Major Jackson's voice cut through the moment of celebration. "Admiral, Jarkavian reinforcements incoming. Multiple capital ships detected." Admiral Okoye's expression hardened. "All right, people. This is it. The real battle starts now. General Krazathul, gather your best warriors. We're taking the fight to the enemy's doorstep." As the command center buzzed with renewed activity, the vista outside the station changed dramatically. Space itself seemed to tear open as massive Jarkavian warships emerged from jump points, their biomechanical forms bristling with weapons. The next phase of the battle for the Galactic Council station, and perhaps the fate of the entire sector, was about to begin. Humanity, the Krizari, and their new allies in the Galactic Council would be tested as never before. The crucible of war was about to forge an alliance that would shape the future of the galaxy. As the command center of the Galactic Council station buzzed with frantic activity, Admiral Okoye's voice cut through the chaos. "General Kraz Thul, we need to move fast. Those reinforcements won't wait for us to get our act together." The massive Krizari warrior nodded, his reptilian eyes gleaming with the prospect of battle. "Agreed, Admiral. What do you propose?" Okoye's fingers danced across a holographic interface, bringing up a tactical display. "We need to hit them where it hurts. A joint strike team, your best warriors and our top operatives. We'll use our stealth tech to get behind enemy lines and gather critical intel on their operations in this sector." Krazthul's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile on a less terrifying face. "A bold plan. My warriors will relish the challenge." Within minutes, an elite team was assembled in the station's main hangar. 6 of humanity's finest stood ready. Major Raphael Jackson, Lieutenant Freya Hansen, Ambassador Garcia's niece and a top infiltration specialist, Sergeant Yuri Sokolov, demo expert, Corporal Zara Okoro, tech wizard, Private First Class Cole Grimes, medic, and Specialist Luke Chow, sniper. Alongside them stood an equal number of Krizari warriors, each a mountain of muscle and scales. Their leader, Sub-Commander Grax, approached Major Jackson with a nod of respect. "Your admiral speaks highly of your skills, human. Let us hope they match the legends." Jackson grinned, the expression a mix of confidence and grim determination. "Trust me, big guy. We're about to write some new legends today." Admiral Okoye addressed the assembled team, her voice carrying the weight of command. "Your mission is critical. We've detected anomalies that suggest a hidden Jarkavian base in the Nexus Nebula. You're to locate it, gather all the intel you can, and if possible, sabotage their operations. The fate of this entire sector may rest on what you discover." As the team boarded a specially modified stealth shuttle, the air was thick with tension and anticipation. Human and Krizari alike checked their gear one last time, each lost in their own thoughts of the dangers ahead. The shuttle slipped out of the hangar, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. As they navigated through the ongoing battle, weaving between massive capital ships and streaking fighters, the reality of their situation sank in. Lieutenant Hansen, her fingers flying over the navigation controls, muttered, "It's like threading a needle in a hurricane." Grax, the Krizari sub-commander, rumbled in agreement. "Your people have impressive technology, human. But can it get us past the Jarkavian sensors?" Jackson nodded grimly. "It'll have to. We've only got one shot at this." As they approached the Nexus Nebula, the view outside the shuttle's viewports changed dramatically. Swirling clouds of cosmic dust and newborn stars created a kaleidoscope of colors, beautiful and disorienting in equal measure. Corporal Okoro, monitoring the sensor readouts, suddenly stiffened. "Major, I'm picking up some weird energy signatures, like nothing I've ever seen before." Jackson leaned in, studying the readouts. "Can you localize it?" Okoro's fingers danced across her console. "I think so. There, about 500,000 kilometers to port. It's pulsing?" As they altered course to investigate, the nebula seemed to part before them, revealing a sight that left even the battle-hardened Krizari speechless. A massive structure hung in space, part organic, part mechanical. It pulsated with an eerie, sickly light, tendrils of energy arcing out to connect with smaller structures scattered around it. "By the cosmic winds," Grax breathed. "What abomination is this?" Jackson's jaw clenched. "That, my friend, is why we're here. Okoro, start full-spectrum scans. Grimes, monitor for any biological hazards. We need to know what we're dealing with." As they cautiously approached the Jarkavian base, the team's sensors painted a disturbing picture. The structure was alive in a way that defied conventional understanding. Energy flowed through it like blood, and sections of it seemed to grow and reconfigure themselves even as they watched. "Major," Specialist Chow called out, his sniper's eyes catching details others might miss. "I'm seeing movement. Looks like ships, but they're part of the structure." Jackson nodded grimly. "Bioships. We've encountered them before. They're not just vessels, they're extensions of the Jarkavian themselves. Okoro, can we get closer without being detected? The tech expert's fingers flew over her console. I think so, sir. Their sensor net seems focused outward. If we approach from this vector, we might slip through a blind spot. As they maneuvered into position, the true scale of the Hfy operation became clear. The base wasn't just a forward operating post. It was a full-scale invasion staging ground. Lieutenant Hansen's voice was tight as she reported. I'm picking up massive energy signatures consistent with jump point generators. They could bring in an entire armada through this thing. Sub-Commander Grax growled, his claws flexing. Then we must destroy it. The safety of our peoples depends on it. Jackson held up a hand. Hold on, big guy. We need intel first. If we can figure out their plans, we might be able to stop this invasion before it starts. The shuttle edged closer to the pulsating structure, using the cover of debris and energy discharges to mask their approach. As they neared one of the outlying structures, Sergeant Sokolov spoke up. Major, I think I've found our way in. That tendril there, it's not just transferring energy. It's hollow. Some kind of docking tube, maybe? Jackson studied the readouts, then nodded. Good eye, Sokolov. All right, team, gear up. We're going in. The next few minutes were a flurry of activity as the joint human-Krizari team prepared for insertion. Specialized environmental suits were donned, weapons checked and rechecked. The air was thick with tension, but also a palpable sense of determination. As they gathered by the airlock, Jackson addressed the team one last time. Remember, our primary objective is intelligence gathering. We need to find out what the Hfy are planning and how to stop it. Engage only if necessary, and stay in constant communication. We all come back, or none of us do. Clear? A chorus of affirmatives, both human and Krizari, answered him. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the airlock opened, and the team stepped into the unknown. The interior of the docking tube was a nightmarish blend of organic and mechanical components. Pulsing veins of energy ran along walls that seemed to breathe, while metallic structures jutted out at odd angles. Grimes's voice came over the comm, tense but controlled. Atmospheric readings are weird, sir. Breathable, but I'm detecting high levels of unknown compounds. I wouldn't recommend taking off our helmets. They moved deeper into the structure, each step bringing new horrors and wonders. Chambers filled with what looked like incubation pods lined their path, each containing half-formed monstrosities that defied description. Corporal Okoro worked feverishly, her portable scanner drinking in data. Major, this place, it's not just a base, it's a factory. They're growing ships, weapons, maybe even troops. Sub-Commander Grax's voice was a low growl. Abominations! They must be purged from this galaxy. As they pressed on, the team's movements became more cautious. Strange, skittering sounds echoed through the corridors, always just out of sight. The feeling of being watched grew stronger with each passing moment. Suddenly, Specialist Chow held up a fist, the universal signal to halt. His voice was barely a whisper over the comm. Movement ahead. Big. Not like anything we've seen so far. The team took cover as best they could, weapons at the ready. What rounded the corner made even the hardened Krizari warriors tense up. A massive creature, easily 3 times the size of a Krizari, lumbered into view. It was a horrific fusion of flesh and machine, with multiple limbs ending in various tools and weapons. Its head, if it could be called that, was a cluster of sensory organs and antenna-like protrusions. Lieutenant Hansen's breath caught. Is that a Hfy? Jackson shook his head slightly. Not like any we've encountered before. This must be some kind of overseer or command unit. The creature paused, its sensor clusters twitching. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed to look directly at their hiding spot. Then, with a low, rumbling sound that might have been speech or merely the grinding of internal machinery, it moved on. As soon as it was out of sight, Jackson made a series of hand signals. The team understood immediately. Follow, but maintain absolute stealth. They shadowed the creature through a maze of corridors, each turn bringing them deeper into the heart of the Hfy base. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber that could only be the command center. Holographic displays filled the air, showing star maps, fleet movements, and streams of alien data. The Overseer creature moved to a central platform, interfacing directly with the base's systems through a series of biomechanical connections. Corporal Okoro's voice was barely a whisper. "Major, if I can get to one of those terminals, I might be able to tap into their network, download everything they know." Jackson nodded. "Do it. Hansen, Sokolov, cover her. The rest of us will keep watch." As Okoro worked her tech magic, interfacing human technology with the alien systems, the tension in the room ratcheted up to near unbearable levels. Every second felt like an eternity, each small sound a potential disaster. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. The Overseer creature roared, its weapons systems powering up. "We've been made!" Jackson shouted. "Okoro, grab what you can and let's move." What followed was a desperate running battle through the twisting corridors of the Hfy base. The team fought with everything they had, human and Krizari working in perfect sync. Sokolov's explosives sealed off pursuing enemies, while Chow's pinpoint shots took out key targets. The Krizari warriors were a whirlwind of destruction, their natural strength amplified by their rage at the abominations they faced. But the Hfy numbers seemed endless. For every enemy they fell, 2 more took its place. As they neared their extraction point, it became clear that someone would have to stay behind to hold off the pursuers. Sub-Commander Grax made the decision without hesitation. "Go!" he roared, hefting a massive weapon torn from a fallen enemy. "I will ensure your escape!" Jackson started to protest, but the look in the Krizari warrior's eyes stopped him cold. This was a warrior's choice, made freely and with full understanding of the consequences. "It has been an honor," Jackson said, clasping Grax's massive arm. The Krizari's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. "The honor was mine, human. Now go. Make our sacrifice mean something." As the rest of the team piled into the shuttle, the last thing they saw was Grax standing tall, roaring his defiance as he held off a tide of Hfy horrors. The shuttle blasted away from the base, weaving through energy blasts and pursuing bioships. Lieutenant Hansen's piloting skills were put to the ultimate test as she navigated the treacherous nebula, using clouds of cosmic dust and newborn stars as cover. In the back of the shuttle, Corporal Okoro worked feverishly to decrypt the data they'd stolen. Her eyes widened as the scope of the Hfy plans became clear. "Major!" she called out, her voice tight with urgency. "You need to see this. It's not just an invasion force. They're planning to use the nebula itself as a weapon. Some kind of stellar-scale conversion process. If they succeed..." Jackson finished the thought grimly. "They could potentially convert entire star systems into more of their biomechanical abominations." As the shuttle raced back towards the Galactic Council station, the weight of their discovery settled heavily on the team. They had the intelligence they sought, but at a terrible cost. And the battle, they now realized, was far from over. The true test of the newly forged alliance between humanity, the Krizari, and the Galactic Council was about to begin. The shuttle emerged from the Nexus Nebula like a comet, trails of shimmering energy marking its frantic passage. In the cockpit, Lieutenant Freya Hansen wrestled with the controls, her fingers dancing over holographic panels as she maneuvered the craft through a minefield of space debris and enemy fire. "Shields at 12%, shouted Corporal Okoro from her station in engineering. "We can't take another direct hit." Major Jackson, his face a mask of grim determination, activated the comm channel. "Galactic Council Station. This is Major Raphael Jackson. Authorization code, Delta 79er. We need immediate cover and clearance for emergency landing." For a heart-stopping moment, there was only static. Then, Admiral Okoye's voice cut through the cacophony. "Jackson, thank God. We thought we'd lost you. Cover's on the way. Docking Bay 4 is clear for your approach." As the shuttle neared the station, a formation of human and Krizari fighters materialized out of nowhere, forming a protective barrier around the damaged craft. Hansen guided the shuttle into the docking bay with what was left of the thrusters, metal groaning in protest as they touched down with a jolt that rattled everyone on board. As soon as the pressure equalized, the doors hissed open. Jackson was the first out, followed closely by his battered and bloodied team. Admiral Okoye and General Krazathul were waiting for them, their faces a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Report, Major," Okoye demanded, her eyes quickly scanning the group for injuries. Jackson made a curt gesture to Okoro. "Show them." The tech specialist activated a device on her wrist, projecting a holographic image of the Hfy base into the air between them. Collectively, everyone present drew in a sharp breath. "By the cosmic winds," muttered Krazathul, his reptilian eyes wide with awe and horror. "What is this abomination?" "The future," Jackson answered grimly, "if we don't stop them now." In the minutes that followed, the team reported their findings in rapid succession. The scale of the Hfy operation, the bizarre organic-mechanical fusion technology, the plans to use the Nexus Nebula itself as a stellar-scale conversion weapon. As the briefing progressed, more members of the Galactic Council gathered, their alien faces showing a range of emotions from abject fear to stubborn disbelief. Councillor Thax, his iridescent exoskeleton trembling slightly, was the first to speak. This cannot be possible. Such technology defies the very laws of physics as we know them." "With all due respect, Councillor," Hansen interjected, her voice laden with urgency. "We saw it with our own eyes. We lost good men and women bringing this information back. If we don't act now, this entire sector of space will fall." A murmur ran through the gathered crowd. Admiral Okoye seized the moment to press their advantage. "Ladies and gentlemen of the Council, I know this is difficult to accept, but the threat is real, and it's literally on our doorstep. We need to mount a strike force immediately." To everyone's surprise, it was General Krazathul who objected. "Admiral, with all respect to your team's bravery, we cannot simply launch an attack based on this information alone. We need time to verify, to prepare properly." "Time is something we don't have, General," Jackson shot back, his frustration palpable. "Every moment we waste in debate is a moment the Hfy use to strengthen their defenses, to expand their corrupting influence." The debate intensified, voices rising as factions formed. Some councillors demanded immediate action, others insisted on caution. The fragile unity that had formed in the face of the initial threat began to fracture under the weight of the brutal reality they faced. In the midst of the chaos, Specialist Chow, the normally taciturn sniper, stepped forward. His voice, though quiet, carried an intensity that silenced the room. "You don't understand," he said, his eyes sweeping over the alien faces. "This isn't a conventional war. It's not about territories or resources. The Hfy are a plague, an infection that spreads from system to system. I saw what they do to the worlds they conquer." With trembling fingers, he activated his own holographic projector. The images that sprang forth drew horrified gasps from those present. Once lush planets reduced to twisted masses of metal and flesh. Entire populations transformed into biomechanical monstrosities, their individuality erased, their essences absorbed into an alien collective consciousness. "This," Chow continued, his voice thick with emotion, "is what awaits all of us, if we don't act now. There is no neutrality in this conflict, no possible compromise. We either fight, or we become part of that thing." A heavy silence fell over the room. It was broken by the metallic sound of Krazathul thumping his fist against his chest in a gesture of warrior respect. "You speak with the wisdom of one who has seen the true face of the enemy, human. The Krizari stand with you." Slowly, others began to nod. The tide of opinion was turning, fear giving way to determination. Admiral Okoye seized the moment. "Councillor Thax, members of the Galactic Council, we didn't come here to dictate your actions or usurp your authority. But the threat we face knows no borders or alliances. It will consume everything in its path if not stopped. Humans and Krizari are prepared to lead the attack, but we need your resources, your technology, your support." Thax looked around the room, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. With a sigh that seemed to come from the depths of his being, he nodded. "So be it. The Galactic Council officially joins this alliance against the Hfy threat. May the stars have mercy on us all." The following hours were a whirlwind of frantic activity. Battle plans were drawn up and revised, fleets were mobilized, weapons were distributed. The Council Station, once a beacon of diplomacy and trade, transformed into a military command center. At the heart of this organized chaos, Jackson team worked tirelessly. Okoro and a team of alien technicians pored over the stolen data, looking for any advantage they could gain. Hansen and Chow trained pilots from various species in the tactics needed to face the Hfy bioships. Sokolov coordinated with Krizari engineers, adapting explosives for maximum effect against the enemy's hybrid technology. As the preparations reached their final stages, Jackson found a moment of quiet. Standing before a viewport, he watched the gathering fleets. Ships from dozens of different species, many of which were enemies just days ago, now aligned in battle formation. Impressive, isn't it? Okoye's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She joined him at the viewport, her eyes reflecting the lights of the ships outside. Never thought I'd see something like this, Jackson admitted. So many different species, united for a common cause. Okoye nodded. It's in our darkest moments that we discover what we're truly capable of. Humans, Krizari, all these alien races. Maybe this is the real victory, regardless of what happens in this battle. Before Jackson could respond, an alert sounded throughout the station. Thax's voice echoed over the loudspeakers. Attention all units. Long-range sensors have detected massive movement in the Nexus Nebula. The Hfy fleet is mobilizing. I repeat, the enemy fleet is mobilizing. Jackson and Okoye exchanged a look. No words were necessary. With a quick nod, they both headed for their command posts. The battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin. The space around the Galactic Council Station swarmed with activity as the Allied fleet took position. Ships of every conceivable shape and size formed a defensive barrier, their weapons charged and ready. At the center of the formation, the human command ship, Defiant, hovered like a predator poised to strike. On its bridge, Admiral Okoye coordinated the final movements. All units, report status. One by one, the different divisions of the fleet confirmed their readiness. Krizari fighters, their hulls covered in plates reminiscent of their pilots' scales. Council cruisers, their energy weapons pulsing with contained power. And of course the human warships, their technology a blend of efficient brutality and ingenious innovation. The tension on the bridge was palpable. Communications officers monitored encrypted channels, strategists adjusted battle plans in real time, and engineers kept the ship's systems at peak performance. Suddenly, the sensors exploded with activity. The science officer, a four-armed Thalarian, shouted, "Contact! Multiple signatures emerging from the nebula!" The main view screen lit up, showing a sight that chilled the blood of all present. From the swirling maelstrom of gases and energy of the Nexus Nebula, a monstrous armada emerged. Hfy bioships, each larger and more grotesque than the last, advanced like a relentless wave of living destruction. "My God," someone murmured. Okoye clenched her fists, her voice steady as she gave the order. "All units, assume combat positions. Let the dance begin." The space between the two fleets lit up with the crossfire of thousands of weapons. Energy beams, dark matter missiles, and more exotic projectiles cut through the vacuum. The front lines on both sides were decimated in seconds. On the surface of the Council Station, Jackson led the ground forces. He knew that if the front line failed, they would be the last defense. "Hold steady!" he shouted over the roar of the station's defense weapons. "Don't let these bastards put a single tentacle on this platform!" Beside him, a mixed group of human soldiers and Krizari warriors entrenched themselves. The scene was surreal. Cutting-edge human technology alongside Krizari weapons that seemed almost primitive, but no less lethal. In space, the battle unfolded with unprecedented ferocity. Human and Krizari fighters danced between the tentacles of larger bioships, their maneuvers synchronized with a precision that spoke of hours of joint training. Aboard the Defiant, Okoye watched the controlled chaos with eagle eyes. "Alpha Squadron, you have a blind spot in Quadrant 3. Krizari, we need heavy support in that sector." The orders were followed with military precision. A group of Krizari cruisers advanced, their plasma cannons vaporizing a Hfy bioship that was trying to flank the Allied formation. For a moment, it seemed the strategy was working. The Hfy front line faltered under the coordinated assault. But then, "Admiral," the science officer shouted, "I'm detecting a massive anomaly at the center of the enemy formation." The view screen showed a sight that defied comprehension. A colossal structure, larger than any warship ever seen, was materializing in the heart of the Hfy fleet. It looked less like a ship and more like a piece of the nebula itself, twisted and molded into a form vaguely reminiscent of a primordial sea creature. "By the ancient gods," murmured the Etherian communications officer. "What is that thing?" The answer came in the form of an energy pulse so powerful it distorted the very fabric of space-time. Dozens of Allied ships were instantly vaporized. The shockwave hit the Defiant with enough force to knock everyone on the bridge off their feet. "Damage report," Okoye demanded, getting up and ignoring the trickle of blood running down her forehead. "Shields at 30%. Structural failures on multiple decks," came the frantic response. "Admiral, we can't take another hit like that." On the surface of the station, Jackson and his forces watched in horror as fragments of destroyed ships rained down around them. "Command Center, what's the situation up there?" Hansen's voice answered, tense and broken by static. "Not good, Major. That thing is tearing through our fleet like paper. We need a new plan, and fast." Jackson looked at the faces around him. Humans, Krizari, members of dozens of different species, all united by fear and the desperate determination to survive. A crazy idea began to form in his mind. "Hansen, connect me with Admiral Okoye. I think I have a plan, but you're not going to like it." Minutes later, on the bridge of the Defiant, Okoye listened in disbelief as Jackson laid out his strategy. "Are you serious, Major? It's practically suicide. With all due respect, Admiral, look around us. If we don't do something drastic now, there won't be an after to regret it." Okoye closed her eyes for a moment, weighing the options, or lack thereof. When she opened them again, there was a steely resolve in her gaze. "Make it happen, Jackson, and may God have mercy on our souls." The plan was audacious, bordering on insane. While the main fleet would keep the attention of the Hfy armada, a small elite group, led by Jackson and composed of his best human operatives and the fiercest Krizari warriors, would infiltrate the monstrous enemy mothership. "It's a one-way mission," Jackson explained to his volunteers. "Our objective is simple. Find whatever's at the heart of that thing and turn it into space dust." Krogan, the imposing Krizari warrior who volunteered to lead his species contingent, let out a growl of approval. "A glorious death, worthy of legends. My ancestors smile upon us this day." As the infiltration team prepared, the battle outside reached new levels of ferocity. The Hfy mothership continued to devastate the Allied fleet, each firing of its main weapon leaving scars in the very fabric of space. It was in this chaos that Jackson's small stealth shuttle took off from the Council station. Taking advantage of the debris and explosions that dotted the battlefield, they approached the biomechanical colossus. "Remember," Jackson told his team, "once we're inside, we're on our own. No communications, no extraction. All that matters is completing the mission." As they neared their target, the true scale of the Hfy mothership became apparent. It wasn't just large, it was an entire ecosystem, pulsing with perverted alien life. "Entry point located," Hansen announced, her fingers dancing over the controls. "Hold on, this is going to be turbulent." The shuttle dove towards an opening that looked more like a wound on the surface of the monstrosity. For a terrible moment, it seemed they would be crushed against the pulsating mass. Then, with a maneuver that defied the laws of physics, Hansen guided them inside. The impact of the forced landing shook everyone on board. When the doors opened, they were greeted by a nightmarish scene. The interior of the mothership was a labyrinth of organic corridors, pulsing with an otherworldly light. The air was thick with a mist that seemed to whisper with alien voices. Jackson stepped out first, his weapon at the ready. "Stay alert. We don't know what kind of internal defenses this thing has." As the team moved deeper into the biomechanical nightmare, the true horror of the Hfy became apparent. Walls writhed with what looked like living circuitry. Chambers filled with pods containing half-formed monstrosities lined their path. The entire ship seemed to be aware of their presence, the very air vibrating with malevolent intent. Suddenly, Krogan held up a clawed hand, signaling the team to halt. Movement ahead, he growled, his reptilian eyes narrowing. Many, coming fast. Before Jackson could issue an order, the corridor ahead erupted with a horde of Hfy drones. They were nightmarish fusions of organic and mechanical parts, screeching and clicking as they charged. "Open fire!" Jackson shouted, his rifle spewing plasma bolts into the oncoming wave. The battle that ensued was like nothing any of them had ever experienced. Human and Krizari fought side by side, their disparate fighting styles complementing each other perfectly. Okoro's tech skills came in handy as she hacked into the ship's systems, sealing corridors and redirecting the flow of enemy reinforcements. But for every drone they fell, 2 more seemed to take its place. The team was forced to retreat, fighting a running battle through the twisting corridors of the living ship. "We need to find the control center," Hansen shouted over the din of battle. "If we can disrupt their command structure, maybe we can throw the whole fleet into chaos." Jackson nodded grimly. "Agreed. Okoro, can you get a read on where the most energy is being directed?" The tech specialist consulted her wrist computer, her eyes widening. "There's a massive power signature about 500 meters ahead, but it's fluctuating in a way I've never seen before." "That's our target," Jackson declared. "Everyone, push forward. We're ending this now." With renewed determination, the team fought their way through waves of Hfy defenders. Human ingenuity and Krizari ferocity proved a deadly combination. Sokolov's explosives cleared entire sections of the ship, while Chow's precision shooting took out key targets. Finally, they reached a massive chamber that could only be the heart of the ship. At its center floated a being unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a writhing mass of tentacles and cybernetic implants, pulsing with energy that seemed to bend reality around it. "By the cosmic winds," Krogan breathed. "What manner of abomination is this?" Before anyone could respond, the being's consciousness crashed into their minds like a tidal wave. Images of countless worlds consumed, entire civilizations assimilated, flashed through their thoughts. "We are Hfy," 1,000 voices spoke as one in their heads. "We are the future. Resistance is not just futile, it is illogical. Join us, and know perfection." Jackson gritted his teeth against the mental assault. "The only thing you'll know is oblivion," he snarled, raising his weapon. What followed was a battle on 2 fronts, physical and mental. As the team fought off waves of drones and the ship's own internal defenses, they also struggled against the overwhelming psychic pressure of the Hfy collective. In the midst of the chaos, Okoro managed to interface with the ship's systems. "Major!" she shouted. "I think I can overload their power core, but it'll take time." "Do it!" Jackson ordered, blasting a drone that got too close. "Everyone else, cover her!" The next few minutes were a blur of desperate combat. Human and Krizari alike pushed themselves beyond their limits, their bodies and minds strained to the breaking point. One by one, team members fell, buying time with their lives. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Okoro's voice cut through the din. "It's done! The core is going critical!" Jackson looked around at the remnants of his team, battered, bloodied, but unbowed. "Time to go," he said grimly. As they fought their way back to their shuttle, the Hfy mothership began to tear itself apart. Energy discharges ripped through corridors, and the very structure of the ship seemed to be collapsing in on itself. They barely made it to the shuttle in time. As Hansen piloted them out of the disintegrating nightmare, they watched through viewport as the massive Hfy ship imploded. The resulting shockwave rippled through space, disrupting the entire enemy fleet. Back on the Defiant, Admiral Okoye watched in awe as the tide of battle suddenly turned. With their command structure in chaos, the Hfy ships began to falter and retreat. As Jackson's battered shuttle limped back to the council station, cheers erupted across the Allied fleet. Against all odds, they had done it. The Hfy invasion had been stopped. In the days that followed, as the dust of battle settled, the full impact of what had transpired began to sink in. The alliance forged in the heat of conflict held strong, with talks of a more permanent coalition beginning almost immediately. Jackson, standing once again before the viewport where this had all begun, felt a presence beside him. It was Krogan, the Krizari warrior who had fought by his side through hell itself. You humans, Krogan rumbled, are full of surprises. Perhaps the legends of your species were not exaggerated after all. Jackson allowed himself a small smile. High praise coming from you. I think we all surprised ourselves today. As Jackson and Krogan stood side by side, watching the aftermath of the battle unfold, a sudden tremor shook the station. Alarms blared, and Admiral Okoye's voice crackled over the comm system. All hands, brace for impact. We've got a massive energy surge heading our way. The viewport filled with a blinding light as the dying Hfy mothership unleashed its final, desperate attack. The shockwave hit the station with the force of a supernova, sending everyone sprawling. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the station's shields would fail. But then, miraculously, they held. As the light faded, the assembled fleet watched in awe as the remaining Hfy ships, now directionless without their central intelligence, began to drift aimlessly. Jackson pulled himself to his feet, offering a hand to Krogan. The Krizari warrior accepted it with a nod of respect. It seems, Krogan rumbled, that we have won the day, human. We, Jackson emphasized, couldn't have done it without you big guys. As the realization of their victory spread throughout the station and the fleet, a wave of jubilation swept through the ranks. Species that had been bitter enemies mere days ago now embraced, united in their triumph over a common foe. Admiral Okoye's voice, tinged with both exhaustion and elation, came over the comms once more. All ships, stand down from combat alert. Begin rescue and recovery operations immediately, and well done, everyone. We've just made history. The hours that followed were a blur of activity. Rescue shuttles darted between debris fields, salvaging what they could and searching for survivors. The station's medical bays were overwhelmed with the injured from a dozen different species, doctors and medics working tirelessly to save lives. Amidst the organized chaos, Jackson found himself summoned to an emergency session of the Galactic Council. As he entered the Grand Chamber, he was struck by the change in atmosphere. Gone was the air of suspicion and barely concealed hostility. In its place was a palpable sense of respect, even admiration. Councillor Thax, his iridescent exoskeleton still bearing scorch marks from the battle, called the session to order. Representatives of the allied species, we stand here today at the dawn of a new era. The threat of the Hfy has been averted, thanks in no small part to the bravery and ingenuity of our newest allies, humanity. A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled dignitaries. Thax continued, his compound eyes focusing on Jackson. Major Jackson, step forward. As Jackson approached the center of the chamber, he felt the weight of countless alien gazes upon him. Thax's voice took on a formal tone. In recognition of humanity's pivotal role in this conflict, and in acknowledgement of the potential your species has demonstrated, I hereby put forth a motion to grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council. All in favor? The chamber erupted in a chorus of affirmatives, each species voicing their agreement in their own unique way. Jackson stood, stunned, as the realization of what this meant washed over him. General Krazthul, his massive form dwarfing the other council members, stepped forward. The Krizari stand with humanity, he declared, his voice reverberating through the chamber. We have fought together, bled together. There is no species we would rather have at our side as we face the challenges that lie ahead. As the formalities concluded, Jackson found himself surrounded by a sea of alien diplomats, each eager to express their gratitude and establish ties with Earth's representative. It was overwhelming, but Jackson couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had proven itself on the galactic stage. Later, as the initial frenzy of victory began to subside, a celebration was organized in the station's main concourse. It was a sight unlike any other. Humans, Krizari, and dozens of alien species mingling freely, sharing drinks and swapping war stories. Jackson found himself at a table with Krogan, Admiral Okoye, and several other key figures from the battle. As they recounted their experiences, Jackson couldn't help but marvel at how quickly alliances had formed in the heat of combat. You know, he said, raising his glass, when I joined the Space Force, I never imagined anything like this. Fighting alongside aliens, saving the galaxy. It's like something out of an old sci-fi novel. Krogan let out a rumbling laugh. And yet here we are. Perhaps those old stories were more prophetic than we realized. Admiral Okoye nodded, her expression thoughtful. This is just the beginning. We've proven what we can accomplish when we work together. The question now is, where do we go from here? As if in answer to her question, a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the concourse. It showed a real-time map of the galaxy, with the former Jarkavian territories highlighted. Counselor Thax's voice echoed through the room. My friends, while we celebrate our victory, we must not forget the challenges that lie ahead. The Jarkavian may be defeated, but their legacy remains. Countless worlds have been ravaged, entire species displaced or assimilated. It falls to us, to all of us, to heal these wounds and ensure such a threat never rises again. A hush fell over the gathering as the magnitude of the task ahead sank in. But rather than despair, there was a sense of determination, of purpose. Jackson stood, raising his glass high. To the future, he declared, to unity, to exploration, and to ensuring that the sacrifices made here today were not in vain. The assembled crowd echoed his toast, their voices joining in a cacophony of languages that somehow blended into a harmonious whole. As the celebration continued into the night, Jackson found a quiet moment to slip away. He made his way to the viewport where this journey had begun, gazing out at the stars that now held so much more meaning. He felt a presence beside him and turned to see Hansen, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Quite a view, isn't it? She said softly. Jackson nodded. It's a big galaxy out there, bigger than we ever imagined, and now it's our responsibility to help protect it. Hansen smiled, a mix of excitement and trepidation in her expression. Are we ready for that, do you think? To be guardians of the galaxy? Jackson chuckled at the phrase, but his response was serious. I don't know if anyone's ever truly ready for something like this, but I do know one thing. If the past few days have shown us anything, it's that humanity can rise to any challenge. We adapt, we innovate, we persevere, and now, with allies like the Krizari and the resources of the Galactic Council at our disposal, well, I'd say the future looks pretty bright. As they stood there watching the stars, neither of them could shake the feeling that this was more than just the end of a battle. It was the beginning of a new chapter in human history, a chapter that would be written across the stars themselves. The galaxy had thrown its worst at humanity, and humanity had not only survived, but thrived. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Earth and its newfound allies would face them together, united in their diversity, stronger for their differences. As the first light of a new day began to creep across the station, illuminating the assembled fleet and the vastness of space beyond, one thing was certain. The legend of humanity's stand against the Jarkavian would be told and retold across 1,000 worlds for generations to come. The age of Earth's isolation was over. The era of galactic citizenship had begun, and the universe would never be the same again. Hey there again. I'm glad you've come so far. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button. This is really important to the channel. Really important. And I have one more thing for you. I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.